Hi, my name's Jeff Chiesa, and this is the story of God. Now, the story of God did not begin with the creation of God. God's always existed. It began for us as humans with God's creation of the heavens and of the earth and of his special creation, man. Genesis 1:1 says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." He created light. He created the sky. He created animals. He created the vast waters and the land. And after he did that, he created man. And man was different. He spoke everything else into creation. But man, he reached down and took dirt from the ground and he breathed his own life, his own breath in the creation of man. And after he created man and he created animals, God decided that man was alone and man needed a helper. Man needed a companion. So he put man to sleep. He took one of man's ribs and created the woman. Now God, after creating the man and the woman and naming them Adam and Eve, God took this Adam and Eve, this husband and wife, and put them in the Garden of Eden. Now he told them they had free reign of this garden, that all they couldn't do was eat from one specific tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That if they ate from this tree, they would surely die. Well, then along comes Satan, along comes a serpent, the craftiest of all of God's creation. And he comes to Eve and he says, "Did God really say that you can't eat from that tree?" And she said, "Yes, God said not to even touch it, not to go near it." And Satan says, "Well, the only reason he's doing that is because he doesn't want you to be like him." He uses a ruse to try to confuse Eve and uses partial truths to try to confuse her. And she talks with the serpent for a while and she sees that the fruit looks delicious, it looks good, so she eats from it. And then her husband that was there, she gave it to him and he ate of it too. This being the first sin, this bringing sin into the world. Now God, after realizing sin was in the world, made his first prophecy about Jesus, about his son coming. In Genesis 3:15 it says that God told the serpent that from the woman's seed someone was going to be brought that was going to crush his head. He says, "You're going to bruise his heel, but he's going to crush your head." And this prophecy is about Jesus. And after a time, after the flood and Noah, God speaks to a man named Abram. He tells Abram, "Take your family, take your things, and go to a land that I'm going to tell you." And he makes three promises to Abram. He says he's going to make him a great nation. He's going to give him land, and that the world is going to be blessed through him, and that the people that bless Abraham are going to be blessed. And through this, Abraham and God make a covenant. And God changes Abram's name to Abraham. And his covenant was based on the idea that Abram and his family will continue to do God's commands, continue to follow God. And the Bible, Old Testament and even into the New, is full of prophecy, starting in Genesis 3:15, where God tells the serpent that he's sending someone to destroy him, that he's sending someone to destroy sin. From that very beginning, God is pointing towards Jesus. And all these prophecies point towards Jesus. In the coming of Jesus, the coming of the King. And then there's the virgin birth. The virgin birth was prophesied by the prophet Isaiah. And it came true through the virgin named Mary, who was betrothed to a man named Joseph. The Holy Spirit came and said that she was going to be with child, even though she was a virgin. She was going to be with child and have a child, and she was to name him Jesus. And even though this caused some confusion between Mary and Joseph, both being of the line of David, which was prophesied in the Old Testament also, he stayed with her. He didn't divorce her. He stayed with her, and she gave birth in Bethlehem. Now Jesus, coming to earth through the virgin birth, became a man. He not only became a man, but he was also still God. He was fully God and fully man. And he had to do this to live the perfect human life, to be the perfect sacrifice, so that he could die on the cross and be the payment for man's sins, a payment that we can't make on our own. When Jesus came incarnate, he was, as I said, fully God and fully man. Although he didn't use his deity unless it was okayed by God. If you look at the New Testament, when he did miracles, a lot of times he prayed to God. He didn't just use it. And Jesus admitted, he said himself that he was the Son of God. God said at the Transfiguration that Jesus was his son. Now, Jesus' life, there's not a whole lot about Jesus' early life that we know, except when he was 12 years old and stayed behind at the temple, and his parents, his earthly father Joseph and his mother Mary, couldn't find him. And at around 30, Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist. And at this point, he started teaching in the synagogue. He started casting out demons and healing the sick and even raising people from the dead. Now, when it comes to Jesus' death, Jesus said that he was going to die. He announced his death. He predicted his own death and that he would rise again on the third day. And he willingly died on the cross so that man could be saved, so that we could have that salvation that comes through his death, so that we could have that personal relationship with God. And after his resurrection, after dying on the cross, he was put in a tomb, and on the third day he did rise, defeating sin, defeating death. But after 40 days, and after being on the earth for that 40 days, talking to his disciples and training them, and being seen by over 500 people at one point, Jesus ascended back into heaven to be at the right hand of God, to be in his proper place until his second coming. Because Jesus' return will come at a time and put an end to sin. It will put an end to death. It will be a day of judgment. It will be a day of happiness and joy for some. But at that point, Jesus will be king of all. He'll be king over everyone. And the reconciliation between God and man will be complete. But this day is not known to anyone but God. Even Jesus doesn't know. And through the incarnation of Jesus, this reconciliation is possible through his death, burial, and resurrection. And this has been the plan of God from the very beginning. His way of, since sin came into the world, bringing it into it, so that he could have that relationship that he originally wanted to have with his people, with his humans that he created, with his creation. And now all mankind has the opportunity to have that personal relationship with God through Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection, through his incarnation. And Jesus is prophesied to be the king of the world. God said that he would rule over everything. He gave him all authority in heaven and earth in Matthew. And the fact is, at his second coming, he will not just be king over his people, over his chosen people, over the people that chose him, but he will be king over all, believers and unbelievers alike. The story of God is really very impressive. It's very exciting. It's very passionate for me. Thank you.